Hello everybody, it is Alan, it is Brony time, and welcome back to Let's Play the Hayseed Knight. When we last left off, we started Chapter 2 with Anna being slightly concerned about the rapid change in Ader's behavior over the last couple of moons. And he was not liking her food, so she went to steal more food from a wandering group of merchants out in the steppes, until she ran into a mysterious Ibex woman named Zhao, who kind of read her, I guess? And it really rubbed Aina the wrong way, and it really affected her, what Zhao told her, and now here we are back in the city of Alcazar. Or was that the city? Yeah, it's Alcazar, isn't it? I think it is. A marine breeze blew over the streets of Irlum Irlum is the name of the city. The next day, sweeping away some of the hot steppe dust that suffocated the city. Alcazar was 2 moons well into dawn swoon already, and was coming to an end little by little. It was lunchtime, and I couldn't stop thinking about the previous night. She still couldn't understand why she couldn't bring herself to merely grab their wares and leave as usual. Maybe they weren't good enough, and that was her merchant instant talking? Yeah. No. For some reason, she could only think of Ader chiding her and giving her a disappointed look. So if he didn't want the usual, that was totally his fault. Carrying a small mountain of uncooked and misshapen potatoes, dried seaweed, and several bulbous roots, Aina made her way through the corridors of her home in search of her apprentice. A cloud or two could be seen in the big blue sky, white and puffy, off to conduct whatever business a cloud could have so close to her home, the once great temple of Hirut, the abandoned residence of a god that left in a tantrum after the Baron Rebellion. Not the most elegant farewell, but her father always said that gods need no manners, and that old geezers clearly knew all about that. The lack of manners, I mean, he knew a thing or two about gods as well. But he much preferred to spend his time cursing them for his longevity. Oh, there he went with his usual friends.
Mississippi! This time we'll get him for good!
Ada! Second-class daughter of a hero-praying beast! Quit whiffle-waffling and do something about this! I know you're somewhere around here, you busty lugs! Ada!
Oh
Damn.
no! He's casting some kind of spell! Hurry up!
Anna just stared idly at the mob carrying her father away, off to a pyre that would forever magically fail to end the poor man's life. The question resurfaced in Aina's mind. It was Ader's pondering aloud whether Aina's father was hated a little more or a little less for purchasing and desecrating the temple of a god that most people despised anyway. She took a moment to consider this as she walked into the sunlight. Sacrilege is kind of a global standard, I suppose. Cue Ader moping all by himself in the courtyard. Aina tensed up her shoulders and stretched out the food plate, attempting to pass the dish as something casual that she didn't go out of her way and spend her personal earnings to buy. Once more, instead of happily proceeding to choke on his payment for helping out in the forge, Ader took a long, empty look at the food. He sighed and looked away.
Sorry, boss. I'm not hungry.
So he'd said time and again during the last few moons, but Ader had always ended up giving up and eating. Less and less every time, however. Aina waited patiently to no avail. Once she got tired of that, she shook a carrot in front of his face, hoping to stir his curiosity with this new shocking ingredient. No answer. So there she was, shaking a rattle in front of a giant one-eyed baby that refused to eat. Seeing that diplomacy didn't work, she poked his snout with said carrot. She poked and poked until it ended up his nose.
You happy now?
Aina's total desperation was purposely ignored by Ader, so a poor carrot was snapped in too for his sins. It was at this point that Aina realized she didn't much care about why he wasn't eating. All she knew was that deer had to eat, and he hadn't done so in a while. With all the delicacy of her hands could muster, she opened his jaw and smashed a raw potato into his mouth. But something was wrong. He didn't overreact. He didn't attempt to talk his potato and mouth dialect. He just grabbed the tuber and handed it back to
You
Aina.
like them taters so much, why don't you eat them?
Uh-oh.
Now you're growling at me? What's your deal?
Her deal? But he was the one acting strange. She was just trying to help, and he still hadn't eaten a single thing.
I don't want your darn potatoes, Aina! Just leave me alone!
Aina hesitated for a moment. A moment longer, and her fist would have given quite a speech. She turned around and angrily stormed off. That teach her to think about anyone other than herself. Aina marched towards one of her usual hideouts atop the rundown temple walls, away from Ader's sight. She needn't run that far. He wasn't going to pursue her this time. Alone with one of her potatoes and all of her weapons, Aina began rummaging through her pockets in search of a knife. There was never a lack of those on her person. She brought out one of her trusty daggers and focused all her attention on cutting the potato into thinner and thinner slices. She wasn't wrong. There was just no way she was. She was older and wiser. Ader was just being an idiot by refusing her help,
Hiding
of course.
from the mob, little Tess?
Hello, Illigrab. God damn it, giant tree man. Replying to Illigrab wasn't precisely on Aina's list of priorities for the day. Illigrab didn't expect otherwise.
Don't worry. I took care of them. No need to thank me, of course. Wouldn't kill you, though. Anyway, all that's left is putting out the fire. So, I was hoping Ader could give me a hand there. Where is the lad?
That was another question that did deserve an answer. Aina devoted her whole being to gathering all the extra thin potato slices and then launched them into the air, watching them fly around like some tremendously wasteful confetti.
You two get in a fight?
Aina led Illigrab to the courtyard. There were a peevish Ader sat by the fountain. He was rubbing his face as he stared at all the food by his
He hasn't
side.
come back to his senses yet, huh? Hey, think it's your father's fault? I mean, I could leave him a little longer on the pyre to see if he learns his lesson.
Don't you dare, you son of a wilted fur!
Don't you dare, you son of a wilted fur. Beat face.
I'll make a wardrobe out of you!
Aw, bless your ears, Red.
Aina shook her head, frustrated. The merchant hadn't said anything meaner than usual, and even if he had, Ader and Aina formed an unbreakable team. Nothing could harm them when they were together. They looked in Ader's direction once more.
Was he actually doing cartwheels?
I won't pretend I've ever understood how Ader's mind works.
You two worrywarts were made for each other.
Aina's face turned red immediately. The legendarily morose Smith would rather admit to any criminal charges against her than let on that she was actually concerned about anyone's well-being. Illigrab smiled and stepped forward before she had a chance to protest,
Let me
however.
handle this. Ahem. Ader, son of Gerfaz of the Upper Field, you're under arrest.
Oh, Three, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I knew that it was against the law, but I couldn't just go tell Ader. Please don't kill me.
For worrying a precious little bean like, Aina, sweetie, give us a minute, will you? Ader, my favorite Chanthurian refugee. Why would the only law-abiding deer in Slander District ever beg for his life? Did Gyoff talk you into conning someone? Someone called Talid, perhaps?
No, thank you. All the gold in my socks are on ain't worth a word with that sicko. Don't tell him I said that.
Well, that rules the most serious possibility out, which leaves us with a scared buck and a secret. And you know that I'm only second to Aina when it comes to both. Start talking.
All right. If I'm gonna die, at least let me die an honest book. I met this girl and she booped me and I got so nervous that I ran away, but then we met again and it turned out we kind of knew each other because I tried to save her once. Things got kind of heated up between us and, what we did that night? Oh boy, that can't be legal.
What? Sex isn't illegal. What are you talking about?
Oh, say no more. So, you shed your antlers. That's no big deal. And most certainly not a crime. Though you know, fawns happen. You do know about that, right? Ader, I love you like a son, but please don't make me take on your father's actual educational duties.
I know where fawns come from. That ain't...
Good. Then what could... Oh, of course. I should have known from the very first moment.
His eyes lit up slightly. Illigrab let a heavy hand fall on the buck's shoulder as he took a deep breath.
No matter how guilty you feel, cheating is not a crime.
Say what?
I want you to know that I don't approve of what you've done, but I'm sure Aina will understand if
Oh, no.
I'd never cheat on Aina. I'd have to be courting her for that anyway.
You're not?
Of course not. My boss is the strongest, and the coolest, and cute as a bug to boot. Ain't nobody good enough in this world to court Aina, much less me. I could never find me a doe like her.
But kid, she's not a...
If a tree falls in a temple and there are 3 people to hear it, including the tree itself, does it make a sound? The answer is yes. He says doe.
All right, kiddo. That's the end of the talk. Why don't you, go back to sulking in the corner or something?
Illigrab laughed awkwardly as Aina dragged him away.
You're lucky I can't have you arrested, you unruly little beast. Yeah, of course. Mock your biggest ally. Excuse me. That wasn't on purpose. I swear. Your greatest ally! I was just trying to help you. Forget that stupid argument. I thought I told you to tell him the truth already. Don't play the mute card with me. There's a million ways you could tell him. That boy's blinder than Pertok, but he'll find out sooner or later that you're lying to him. You want to wait till Eka is here? How do you think he'll react then? Aina, we aren't like him. Like them. I know you care a lot about him, and so do I. I love the both of you. But keeping up the charade for so long is only gonna make the truth harder than it should be. Dear, have a life. And we're a part of it, of course, but there are just some things that we can never give them. Things they need in their short time on Dakna. No matter how much we love them. Ader is no exception to that rule. He's beginning to realize that you're not the son of his life, Aina. Take the whole knight business out, and what do you have? He's just a boy with down-to-earth concerns. He wants a farm. He wants a family. He will move on one day and find those things. And we should be happy for him. Do you understand?
There are some concepts that Aina was acutely aware of, even if she herself didn't realize that. How painfully small her influence could be on anyone's life was one of them. A few moments went by in complete silence as she contemplated the faces that had left her behind already. She had always been all too eager to forget how rare company had been throughout her existence. Bearing the weight of such a thought, she finally nodded with her head low. Illigrab's mustache turned down as his eyebrows rose. A million worried creases formed where his forehead should be.
Great! Then do me a favor and take him somewhere nice tonight.
Huh?
You have to make sure to have fun together while you can. So go make up with him. Take him out tonight. Who knows? Maybe he'll loosen up and tell you what's going on after a few drinks. It's time to let him in or let him go. So you two'd better be smooshing faces together by the end of the night, okay? That's a royal order.
Incredible display of dexterity, Illigrab managed to produce a handful, a giant tree-deer's handful, of doors from a bag on his belt, which he handed to a very flustered Aina so discreetly as he could. Satisfied with his act of generosity, he took a long glance around the forge. finally stopping to stare at the embers resting on the bottom of the furnace.
And you can think of that as a tip. You know, so you can get to work on my order a bit faster.
Aina looked at Illigrab straight in the eye. Not restless, not calm, even more silently than usual. She stretched out the hand holding the coins
Fair
towards him.
enough. I should know better than to try to bribe a Tess. You guys are a prideful bunch. But hey, keep the money. I'm sure Ader could use a little, push in the right.
Are you going to help me down or what?
Red, I swear I'd let the mobs have their way with you if it wouldn't make your daughter sad.
I'd like to see you try!
Oh, I'm sure you would. He's right, though. I shouldn't leave him hanging like that. Good luck, Aina.
Free from the chains of unwanted social interaction, Aina silently pondered Illigrad's words as she headed back to Ader's side. The used to be sacred flat pools in the public courtyard now served as a magnificent dish and laundry washing station. Ader's particularly, since he was in charge of these chores. At the end of the day, any of her oh-so-urgent tasks were just another excuse to keep Ader around. He purposely looked the other way, of course. He didn't want to talk to her. Neither getting blatantly ignored by the clingiest deer on Docna wasn't lost on Aina. A painful punishment if there was one. An apology was something to be rarely expected from the smith, not because she failed to see the faults in her actions, but because she didn't know how to apologize. Now, that was just an excuse. Ader always knew when Aina felt guilty about anything. And again, why did she have to apologize when it was him who failed to appreciate her efforts? Could have continued patting her own back and telling herself how right she was. She had noticed that the food was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah?
I carefully removed from Ader's hands the brass dish that he'd been polishing
It's
over and
not
over.
clean yet. There's some red spot that just won't get.
Incredible feat, considering that he'd been washing that same dish since her conversation with Illigrab started. The dish had been cleaned with such dedication that she could see her reflection in it. Aina stared at the dish. Then at Ader. Back at the dish. Ader again. Once satisfied with the observation, she whacked Ader's snout with the flat side of the dish in a manner she considered softly.
What is it now?
Smirking in the most annoying fashion possible, she shoved the dish on Ader's face.
There it is. Just let me clean that darn dish.
Then turned the dish around once more, just to make sure she was right. There was no spot to be seen. Seeing that her first idea didn't yield any results, Aina decided that some better strategic positioning was in order.
Wait! Don't go walking into the pool! You're gonna make a...
Knowing the way her boots were getting soaked and how questionable her repositioning was, Aina sat down in the gap left between Ader's legs in the pool. She held the dish out as far as she could and then tapped on its surface, attempting to call Ader's attention to it once more. He had to regain a bit of composure
Can't
first.
you see the spot? It's there, right next to your face.
Brief lapse of clarity came about as Ader's sight traveled towards a red blur on the brass dish. Right there was where his left eye should have been.
And I'm done. Big surprise.
They agreed on that. A tranquil silence followed Ader's epiphany, a moment of reflection. Aina looked up at Ader with her big black eyes, hoping to tug at his heartstrings in lieu of an apology.
Some people would call that kind of purposefully cute look manipulative.
Some people would get their asses kicked.
Well, darn, boss. I may not be all that used to the eye thing just yet, but I don't really need two eyes to see when you're trying to play me.
Aina patted Ader's enormous arms as patronizingly as she could, ruffling the fur that covered them. It seemed none of them would exactly apologize for what happened. So of course they went back to playing with the dish like the big children they were.
Who the hell's that gnarled leafless palm tree? That ain't me. There just ain't no way that's my face. Where'd my cheeks go? No wonder I don't recognize myself. Hold up. How did she even manage to recognize me then? Was that magic too?
I had no idea who she was or what magic he was talking about. There was only one gigantic, one-eyed roe deer with shovels for hands in the whole city. Ader put the dish away, fixing his gaze farther in the fountain, where a statue stood mutilated and bereft of the glory it had ages back.
Curses. Ain't no way I could forget someone like that twice.
Knowing fully well that he wasn't talking to her, Ina continued running her bandaged fingers along his fur absentmindedly, somewhat concerned about his son's interest for the son of the sun. She could only guess why he was talking to a statue, but then again, didn't that hold true for everything? Did she exactly understand a single thing Ader did or said? Could she even? Ader had told her a million things since they met. She didn't care. They did not affect her in the slightest, and yet he kept pouring his heart out to her, and she kept ignoring it, like some sort of tug-of-war for lonely idiots. So, why did the thought of not understanding him distress her so much now, when she hadn't made a single effort to do so in the time they had known each other? In the time they had known each other, Hillegrab's words resonated within her, making her feel guilt she usually quieted with violence.
I've been thinking a whole darn lot about the past lately, boss.
Ina's torn-up ears perked up. What were the chances of these two thinking the same thing? Ader smiled ever so slightly, giving her his trademark, "Here's a story you don't want to miss,
Do you
look."
remember the day we met?
What a question.
Hey, don't you... at me, Missy. Imagine you just walked into the city thinking this is finally your day. You make a friend, he's gonna get you a job, and then you turn around a corner and stumble upon a grandpa on fire!
Nothing strange as far as I was concerned.
Make like your idea of weird and mine sort of match for a minute, boss. As I was saying, my pa raised a good boy, and a good boy don't let grandpas fry on a pyre. So I rush into the temple, ready to end the one life I got to save his.
What Ader didn't know is that Ina had been looking down on the scene from her window, giving her a quite more accurate retelling of the events.
No matter how hard I try, the fire's just too strong for me. There's nothing a poor buck like me can do. With his last breath, the old man calls for his daughter, and he hollers until... Whoa! The prettiest girl I'd seen in my life walks right out of the gate!
Ina made a conscious effort not to giggle. To be fair, half the female population that Ader met was the prettiest girl he'd seen in his life.
And as she makes her way through the crowd, she looks at me! At me! Of all the people!
Of course she was looking at it. He was screaming louder than the man on the pyre.
And she gets closer. And closer. And then... the little thing just signs us to get eaten by a beast and walks away like it's got nothing to do with her. Wonder who that gal was, huh?
He poked Ina's cheek, and she slapped his hand away as solemnly as she could. He was the one to talk about first impressions. Shaggy, chubby, badly patched up, and wearing a ridiculous vest. That's how she remembered the Ader that first appeared in their gate, screaming in fear as usual. Once upon a time, there had been muscle, and even fat on Ader's arms. All that remained to attest to his gigantism were a pair of oversized hands and clothes that had been mended beyond recognition. Indeed, he was once a boy with a tender scar on his face, yelling from the rooftops that he fully intended to become a knight. But dreams aren't edible, are they?
I gotta say, this year's been kicking my ass real bad. But I'm still alive and in one piece. I guess I got good health at least. No thanks to your horn-shattering, teeth-breaking, nose-bending punches. But you're the one person I can always count on, boss. I trust you with my life.
This was just a very Ader's exaggeration, of course. And had only been friends since the last bleak night, at least the way she saw it. There's no way he trusted her that much already. Then again, Ader would have probably argued that they had been friends since he arrived with the first bloom of flowerescence, and that he would have died for her since the moment he saw her.
And it ain't just you. I can't imagine leaving Mr. Bard's home. Or not going on walks with Hillegrab. Even the patron. Gods, I never thought I'd find something like this when I left the fort. I was just dying to go back.
Ader shut up all of a sudden. I was surprised he managed to speak half a sentence about his draft. There went another issue he never talked about. Draft. Was he conscripted into the army? Both Ader and Ina turned their eyes to the reflection once more. The image on the dish offered no good answer to the questions either of them had. Just talked about the outcome of their decisions. Ina shifted the dish a little until she was no longer in the picture. That's where she belonged.
Now, you really gotta quit sneaking around, boss.
Putting his hands just above hers, Ader turned the dish so he could be back in the reflection. He turned her face up towards his, confused.
Eligrab's words got to you, right?
Still observing Ader's snout in such a weird angle, she nodded. He had been a lot more vigilant than what she had originally thought, but he had decided to remain silent about it all the same. In such a low angle, his still faunish and round face looked even mature. Now that was a stretch. She knew that mature was probably one of the last adjectives that would ever be associated with him. But for just a moment, she felt like he wasn't a dumb kid who would get lost if she let him go anymore.
Please tell me you didn't believe him, ma'am. He got it all wrong. I ain't no cheater. I never once said I was courting you, I swear.
It was just a moment, as I said. Anna quietly considered the question. But not before headbutting his chest for that tell, of course. No matter what's troubling Ader, it obviously wasn't her business. She didn't like it when he pried into her life. It was only fair she return the favor and let him be. Anna took a long glance at the stag's jaw, letting her mind wander. She always kept him at an arm's length. Actively speaking, she feared what Ader would find if he looked closer. In the moments of true hardship, Anna knew just what to do to cheer him up. No money or alcohol required. Effortlessly, she grabbed onto his arms and brought them around her waist, pulling him into what could only count as half-hug. Ader embraced her as strongly as he could. Moved by this gesture, any other person's spine would have probably crumbled under the weight of Ader's chest, but not Ina's, no.
Boss, I can't believe Eligrab had the nuts to go and say such a thing. What kind of buck does he think I am? He knows how much you mean to me. I'd never, ever hurt you like that.
Anna sighed contentedly to herself, laughing about her previous considerations, about him looking like an adult. Ader was as caring, vulnerable, and predictable as the day she met him. That hadn't changed at all. She didn't want him to change at all. Change was scary, and Ader an oddity in a world that shunned her. She wanted him safe and sound by her side. How could that ever be a bad thing? She didn't need an answer. It was now time for Ina to go back to sulking, and for Ader to feel bad thinking that it was due to what Eligrab had said.
They got it all wrong. Eligrab, Mr. Bard, the patron. I know they want to help, but all them city folks think they know better than Shorthorns over yonder. He don't ever get to finish talking, because they already know what a dumb fawn's gonna say. You got any idea how gosh darn friggin' annoying that is?
Ina rolled her eyes back, asked the mute girl if she knows anything about not getting to chip in.
I ain't no fawn. I've been a farmer, and a water seller, and a watchman, and a soldier. I had a life before I met him, and I have one now too, but I just don't want to tell them about it. They wouldn't understand.
Oh, but they would.
And what if I just don't want to talk? What if I'm tired of everyone thinking I'm a hick and that's it? It ain't the end of the world, right? Right?
Ader looked at Ina pleading with big glassy eyes on the verge of tears. This miss couldn't even bring herself to give him the sarcasm he deserved. And then not impatiently giving him a lazy, derisive pat on his cheek. She found that almost relatable. With a loud sigh full of resignation, frustration, and just a hint of relief, Ader rested his chin on Ina's head, letting his surge of honesty suddenly vanish.
Feels good to get that off my chest. Once more, does and stags, the only one that gets it is Aina the Smith. I'm sorry for all the grief I've given you, boss. I should have talked to you sooner.
Indeed, he should have, but she was gracious enough not to remark it. Ina let him know that she still expected an explanation with a single look, and Ader's cheeks jumped a little as he looked away, smiling as coyly as his giant teeth would let him. And here came the part where he poured his heart out to the beautiful maiden by his side, and their relationship was strengthened even further.
Boss, you know that I know there ain't nobody in the whole of Akathor that'll keep a secret safer than you. But that still don't mean you get to hear about it.
Time to roll out the barrels.
Well, ma'am, I think I'm all talked out for today. I should get going now. Mr. Bard's playing tonight, and someone's got to make sure he don't drink our money. See you tomorrow.
Ader headed off to the arc that led to the Sand District. A set of steps started walking behind him.
Boss? Ha! Gotcha. Did I forget something?
Ina pointed at Ader and then at herself.
Wanna come along? I don't know, boss. It's, a stag night. We're gonna drink ourselves silly and then we're gonna talk about does. Woo! Yeah.
Yup, talking about does? Now there's the biggest piece of fiction ever written.
Needless to say, Ina remained very much unconvinced.
What about your pa? He's gonna be madder than a hornet when he hears you're out drinking with me again.
Merger was essentially mad every faction of the second he spent alive. That wasn't a deterrent under any circumstance.
Make this a bit easier for you. Do you remember the last time we went to a tavern together, boss? You know, when you threw Mr. Bard out a window? And then you just ran after him and left me alone to... Hold up. Don't tell me that was the day she...
Whatever story Ader was about to tell disappeared completely from his mind. He bit the claw on his thumb, babbling to himself with that strange accent of his. Her boots didn't even make a sound as she shyly walked towards Ader. She grabbed his hand with her comparatively tiny fingers, looked up, awaiting a response.
Sorry, boss, don't cry, please. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you wanted to come along so bad. You could come down with us any day. And if Mr. Bard got anything to say about that, I'll take care of him.
His lip trembled as she struggled to keep a smirk away
Not
from
so
her face.
fast, ma'am. You gotta swear over by tie that your butt and the seat are gonna be one and the same. Because if I see you throw a single punch, or a kick, or God's forbid a stab, I ain't ever taking you with me again. I don't want another buck slamming a chair against my noggin. Got it?
And with that, we will end this part here. Yes. Hoo boy. So, I guess when we come back in the next part, we're gonna go to the tavern with Ina. We got a little more, peer into Ader's past this part. He was drafted, apparently, into the army. And apparently that's a very sore subject for him. And that's all we got. But we'll figure it out. We still got 3 chapters left. So, thank you all for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe to BronyTime for more content, especially more of the Hayseed Night. Also, make sure to share this video far and wide so it can reach as many eyes as possible. I will see you all next time.